It's really validated, but a complete validation of what we've been screaming on the top of roofs about for years. This was not this was a conscious decision that they made. It was not an accident, and parents are not to blame.
You know, if you're 35 years old and you get addicted to YouTube and Instagram, well, shame on you. But to take that preteen, to take that teenager whose mind is still developing.
These are the names of children who are no longer with us.
For years, billions of people have opened the same apps every day. Scrolling, watching, refreshing, liking, repeating. Instagram and YouTube. Platforms so deeply connected to modern life that most people barely notice how often they use them. But in 2026, one lawsuit changed the conversation around social media forever. A young woman stepped into court with an accusation that shocked the tech world. She claimed that Meta and Google knowingly designed platforms that were addictive to children and teenagers. And after months of legal arguments, testimony, and internal evidence, a jury sided with her. The verdict sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Because this case wasn't just about one person. It raised a much bigger question. What if the platforms used by billions of people were never designed to simply entertain us, but to keep us hooked? This is the story of the girl who sued Meta and Google, and why her case could permanently change the future of social media. Chapter 1. Growing Up Online. To understand why this lawsuit became so important, we first need to understand something about modern childhood. For previous generations, childhood memories were connected to television, playgrounds, and neighborhood friendships. But for millions of teenagers today, their childhood happened online. Social media platforms became digital spaces for identity, entertainment, friendship, and validation. Notifications became emotional triggers. Likes became social approval. Algorithms learned what people watched, paused on, searched for, and reacted to. And slowly, platforms became more personalized than ever before. The young woman at the center of this case reportedly joined social media at a young age, like millions of other teenagers. At first, the platform seemed harmless. Funny videos, friends, entertainment, trends. But according to court documents, her relationship with social media gradually became unhealthy. The lawsuit claimed she developed compulsive usage patterns connected to Instagram and YouTube. Hours online became longer. Sleep patterns changed. Offline life became harder to focus on. And eventually, her legal team argued that the platforms contributed significantly to worsening mental health struggles. But this lawsuit wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. Because her lawyers focused on something much bigger than individual experiences. The design of the platforms themselves.
I've definitely spent way too much time on social media.
I think I spend probably more than I should.
Like my weekly thing, it says that I spend around 5 hours a day. Most of my life, I think I have spent way too many hours on the apps.
Chapter 2. The Addiction Allegations. The lawsuit accused Meta and Google of designing systems specifically engineered to maximize engagement. In simpler terms, the platforms allegedly wanted users, especially young users, to stay online for as long as possible. And according to critics, many platform features were intentionally designed around psychological reward systems. Infinite scrolling, autoplay, push notifications, recommendation algorithms, short-form content loops. Each feature may appear small on its own, but together, critics argue they create a powerful behavioral cycle. You scroll for one video, then another, then another. Minutes become hours without noticing. Experts who testified in similar social media cases have compared some engagement systems to reward mechanisms found in gambling psychology. Not because social media and gambling are identical, but because both rely heavily on unpredictable rewards. One funny video, one exciting post, one viral moment. Your brain keeps searching for the next emotional reward. And algorithms become extremely good at predicting what keeps people engaged, especially teenagers. Because younger users are often more emotionally vulnerable to social validation, comparison, and online pressure. The lawsuit argued that the companies understood this vulnerability and continued optimizing their platforms anyway. The internal documents. One of the most powerful moments in the lawsuit involved internal company research and documents. Over the years, reports and investigations revealed that major tech companies had studied how their platforms affected younger users. Some internal findings reportedly showed concerns about mental health effects linked to excessive social media use. Critics argued these warnings were not acted upon aggressively enough. Meanwhile, the companies defended themselves by arguing that billions of people use their services safely and responsibly. Meta and Google both stated that their platforms include tools for parental controls, screen time management, and user safety. They also argued that mental health issues are complex and cannot be blamed on a single factor. And that's what made this case so complicated. Because the lawsuit wasn't trying to prove that social media alone caused harm. Instead, it argued that platform design amplified unhealthy behavior patterns in vulnerable users. And eventually, the jury agreed enough to hold the companies partially responsible. That decision immediately became historic. Because if social media companies could be legally responsible for addictive design, then future lawsuits could follow. Many future lawsuits. The courtroom battle. Inside the courtroom, both sides presented dramatically different views of modern technology. The plaintiff's side portrayed social media companies as powerful corporations that understood the psychological impact of their products. They argued that algorithms were not neutral tools. They were systems carefully optimized to capture human attention, especially the attention of younger users. Meanwhile, defense lawyers argued something very different. They said social media platforms are tools used by billions of people for education, creativity, communication, and entertainment. And they argued personal responsibility also matters. The case became more than a lawsuit. It became a cultural debate. Who is responsible for online behavior? The companies? Parents? Users themselves? Or society as a whole? Experts in psychology, technology, and behavioral science were brought into the discussion. Terms like engagement optimization and algorithmic amplification became central to the case. And outside the courtroom, the internet exploded with debate. Some people supported the lawsuit completely. Others believed blaming technology companies ignored personal accountability. But regardless of opinion, everyone agreed on one thing. The case was historic. The verdict. When the verdict arrived, it immediately became international news. The jury found Meta and Google liable in parts of the case and awarded damages. The decision shocked many legal analysts because it opened the possibility for future claims against social media companies. Almost immediately, conversations began across the tech industry. Would platforms now face stricter regulation? Would algorithms change? Would age restrictions become tighter? Would governments become more involved? The verdict also raised fears inside Silicon Valley. Because if one lawsuit succeeded, others might follow. And they already were. Across the United States and other countries, additional lawsuits connected to youth mental health and social media addiction were already building momentum. The bigger question. This case isn't just about Meta, or Google, or Instagram, or YouTube. It's about a much larger issue. What happens when technology evolves faster than society can adapt? Modern platforms are built around attention. Attention drives advertising. Advertising drives revenue. And algorithms are designed to maximize time spent online. But when teenagers spend hours inside algorithm-driven systems every day, what effect does that have long-term? Researchers still debate the answer. Some studies show strong links between excessive social media use and anxiety, depression, sleep disruption, and self-esteem issues. Other experts argue the relationship is more complicated. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The conversation around social media is changing. For years, platforms were viewed mostly as entertainment tools. Now they are being examined more like powerful psychological systems. And governments, parents, schools, and courts are paying attention. The future of social media. The girl who sued Meta and Google may have started something much larger than a single lawsuit. Because now, a question hangs over the entire tech industry. If algorithms shape behavior, who should be responsible when that behavior becomes harmful? The companies? The users? Or both? As social media continues evolving, society may need to rethink how technology interacts with mental health, childhood, and human attention itself. Because in the modern world, the most powerful products are no longer physical. They are digital. And the battle over how they shape our lives is only beginning.